Hello English learners, welcome back. I'm John, and today I want to take you through a situation that almost every person goes through at least once in life. It's simple, it's relatable, and honestly, it can be a little embarrassing, but that's exactly what makes it useful. Whenever we talk about real English, the kind of English that people use in everyday life, we need moments like this, moments that aren't perfect or polished but feel completely human. And today's topic is exactly that. Before I get into the examples and breakdowns, let me set the mood a little. Imagine you're walking down a street you don't visit very often. You're thinking about work, maybe thinking about something you need to buy, or maybe just enjoying the weather. Suddenly you see someone you met before, maybe at a conference or business event or even a casual gathering. You remember the person's face perfectly, you remember the conversation, you remember laughing together, but then, when it's time to say their name, your mind just goes totally blank. It's like someone erased it with a tiny invisible eraser. That is the situation we're exploring today.
Now, before we jump into the dialogue, I want to explain why this kind of lesson matters. People often think learning English means memorizing grammar rules or doing vocabulary drills, but real English is built from moments. Moments when you don't have time to think. Moments when you make mistakes. Moments when you're in a hurry and still trying to sound polite. These moments teach you the expressions that native speakers use naturally. And this lesson is full of those expressions.
Alright, now let's get into the scenario. Nick sees Anna while walking through a neighborhood. The funny thing is, neither of them expected to meet the other person there. Nick starts the conversation with a friendly greeting, "Hey, how's everything going?" Anna is surprised but happy. She responds with something like, "Oh hi. What are you doing in this area? Do you live around here?" She asks this because she wants to figure out why Nick is suddenly in this part of town. It's a very common question people ask when they run into someone unexpectedly.
Nick explains that his office is just around the corner. This expression, around the corner, simply means close by, not far at all, maybe just a minute or two of walking. Nick then brings up the conference they attended last week. He tells Anna that he really enjoyed talking with her there, especially their discussion about international business. Notice something important here. This is a very natural way to reconnect with someone. Mentioning a previous conversation makes the interaction warmer and less awkward.
Anna agrees and says the conversation was interesting for her as well. Everything seems smooth so far. But then something happens that all of us have experienced. Nick suddenly remembers that he is in a hurry. Maybe he has a meeting, maybe he needs to get somewhere quickly, he doesn't say why, but he makes it clear that he can't stay long. He takes out his business card and says they should meet again another time and continue their discussion. This is a polite and friendly way to end a conversation without sounding rude or rushed. Anna then asks him, "You still have my contact details, right?" And this is where the story takes a funny turn. Nick realizes something embarrassing. He doesn't remember her name. He remembers her face, he remembers the things they talked about, he remembers the conference, but her name, gone. Completely gone. So he admits it. He says, "This is really embarrassing, but your name has completely slipped my mind. Can you remind me?" This is a great example of real English because people genuinely say this when they forget someone's name.
Anna handles the situation kindly. She says, "My name is Anna Ferris." And then she adds something that makes Nick feel better, "Don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time. I'm terrible with names too." This moment is exactly why this lesson is important. It teaches you how to handle awkward situations politely, naturally, and confidently. Now, let me expand on some of the expressions mentioned here because these phrases are extremely common, and learning them will help you sound more fluent. When someone says, "I'm in a bit of a hurry," it means they don't have much time. They're moving quickly or they have somewhere important to be. It doesn't mean they are running or panicking, it simply means their time is limited. You can use this phrase in countless situations, when leaving home, when ending a conversation, or when someone asks you for help but you genuinely can't stay long. Then we have the phrase, contact details. This refers to your phone number, your email address, maybe your work number, or sometimes your physical address. It's all the basic information someone might need to get in touch with you. In professional settings, people often exchange business cards for this exact reason.
Another important expression from the situation is slipped my mind. This is a friendly way of saying I forgot. It makes the mistake sound less serious, and people often use it when they forget names, appointments, messages, or anything simple. And one more useful expression, terrible with. This is used to say that you are not good at something. For example, someone might say, I'm terrible with directions, or I'm terrible with technology, or I'm terrible with names, like Anna did. It's a natural way to admit weakness without sounding too serious. So in this first section, you've seen how a simple meeting on the street can teach you a lot about natural English. You've seen how phrases fit together in real conversation, and you've seen how people use English not just for perfect grammar but to navigate a slightly uncomfortable moment with politeness and humor.
Now that the dialogue has played, this is a good moment to slow things down and really think about what happened. Situations like this happen constantly in real life, and that's exactly why they are so useful for English learners. When people meet someone they haven't seen in a while, especially in a place they don't expect, their brain sometimes freezes for a second. It doesn't mean they don't care or weren't paying attention, it simply means the human mind is busy with many things at once. Nick, in the dialogue, is walking quickly, maybe thinking about work, maybe thinking about where he needs to go next. Suddenly someone he recognizes appears in front of him, and instead of remembering everything perfectly, his memory just blanks out at the worst moment. This is natural and extremely common. Many people experience this, even confident professionals. John, when Anna asks him, "You still have my contact details, right?" That's when he realizes he's in trouble. He knows they met at the conference, he knows the conversation about international business was interesting, he even remembers that she made a good impression, but the exact name is gone from his mind. In real life, this can make people panic a little. You can feel your heart jump because you don't want to appear rude, careless, or forgetful. Nick tries to stay calm, but eventually he has to admit the truth. He says something like, "This is really embarrassing, but your name has slipped my mind." And honestly, saying this directly is much better than pretending or guessing. Guessing someone's name and getting it wrong is way more embarrassing than admitting you forgot.
John, the phrase slipped my mind is one of those expressions English speakers use all the time. It doesn't mean someone is irresponsible, it simply means the information escaped temporarily. People forget birthdays, meetings, important dates, promises, phone numbers, even the names of people they actually like. The mind stores too many details every day, so sometimes something small falls out for a moment. That's why this expression is very useful, it's polite, natural, and it doesn't sound harsh. If someone hears you say "it slipped my mind," they usually understand immediately and don't take it personally. Anna reacts the same way. She says it happens to her all the time and that she is also terrible with names. That small response removes all the pressure from the situation. John, another useful part of the dialogue is the phrase around here. English speakers use this expression constantly. It can mean near this place, but it can also mean in the general area. For example, if someone asks, "Do you live around here?" it could mean your home is nearby, or even that you work close to that location. Nick says his office is just around the corner. This gives the listener the idea that his workplace is not far, maybe only one street away. These small expressions help conversations sound natural and fluent. Without them, the dialogue would sound robotic or too formal. John, there's also another phrase worth paying attention to: "in a bit of a hurry." This phrase is softer and more polite than saying "I'm in a hurry." It suggests that the person is moving quickly but not in a rude way. It gives the sense that they would like to talk longer but genuinely can't at the moment. Nick uses this because he wants to keep the conversation friendly. He is not trying to run away, he just doesn't have time. So instead of cutting the conversation abruptly, he offers his business card and suggests meeting again. This is another good communication skill.
Many learners focus only on grammar and vocabulary lists, but these tiny expressions, like "around here," "in a bit of a hurry," and "slipped my mind," are the things that make speech sound real and natural. They show politeness, emotion, and personality. Native speakers rely on these phrases daily, and once learners start using them, conversations become smoother and much more comfortable. Now that we've heard the initial dialogue, let's focus on some key phrases that are useful in real conversations. The first phrase we'll look at is "in a bit of a hurry." This means you don't have much time and need to move quickly. For example, Nick said he was in a hurry when he handed over his card. You can use this phrase in many situations. If you are running late, you can say, "I'm in a bit of a hurry, so I'll call you later," or if someone asks you to wait, you can say, "Sorry, I'm in a bit of a hurry." It's a simple phrase, but it's very natural and common in everyday English. Another important phrase is contact details. This refers to all the information someone can use to reach you, like your phone number, email, or office address. When Anna asked Nick if he still had her contact details, she meant her full information for staying in touch. You can ask someone, "Can you give me your contact details?" or "Do you have my contact details?" This phrase is useful in both personal and professional settings.
Lastly, we have slipped my mind. This is what Nick said when he forgot Anna's name. It's a casual way to admit you forgot something, usually by accident. For example, you might say, "I'm sorry, it completely slipped my mind," if you forget an appointment or a task. Using this phrase makes your English sound natural and polite, and it happens to everyone. John, now that we understand the key phrases, let's see how we can put them together naturally in conversation. One very useful expression from the dialogue is "around here." This simply means near this place or close by. When Anna asked Nick if he lived around here, she wanted to know if his home or office was nearby. You can use this phrase in many situations. For example, if you are looking for a store, you might say, "Excuse me, is there a pharmacy around here?" Or if you are giving directions to someone, you can say, "There's a great restaurant around here, just down the street." A similar phrase is "around the corner." This is slightly more specific than "around here" and usually refers to something very close, often just a few steps away. Nick mentioned that his office was right around the corner. You can use it like this in daily life: "The bakery is just around the corner," or "You'll find a coffee shop right around the corner." These phrases are very common in English because people often talk about locations and directions, and using these natural expressions makes your speech sound fluent and native-like.
We also saw how Nick handled an awkward situation, forgetting someone's name. This is a very common social experience. Everyone forgets names from time to time, and it can feel a little embarrassing, but the important thing is how you respond. Saying something like, "I'm sorry, your name slipped my mind," is polite and natural. You're acknowledging the forgetfulness without making the other person feel uncomfortable. And remember, you can combine this with asking for contact details to make the conversation smoother. For example, "I'm terrible with names, but do you still have my contact details?" This approach makes forgetting less awkward and keeps the conversation friendly. Another point to note is how Nick's quick action helped maintain the connection. Even though he was in a hurry, he gave Anna his card and suggested meeting again. This shows that good communication isn't just about words, it's also about timing and gestures. In real life, small actions like handing over a card, writing down your email, or repeating a phrase like "let's meet again" make your English communication feel professional, polite, and natural.
Finally, it's important to practice these phrases in scenarios repeatedly. The more you hear them and use them in your own speech, the more natural they will feel. Try imagining yourself in this situation: you meet someone at a conference, your mind goes blank, and you have to navigate politely. Practicing phrases like "I'm in a bit of a hurry," "around here," "contact details," and "slipped my mind" in context will boost your confidence and make you sound fluent in real-life conversations. John, now that we've covered some key phrases and location expressions, let's focus on how to talk about being terrible with something. In the dialogue, Anna mentioned she's terrible with names, and this is a very useful phrase in English. Saying you're terrible with something means you're not good at it, or it's difficult for you. For example, you might say, "I'm terrible with directions, I always get lost," or "I'm terrible with numbers, I can't do math quickly." Using this phrase is natural, casual, and shows honesty about your abilities. We also saw examples of Nick using this in a real situation. When he forgot Anna's name, he could have panicked or stayed silent, but instead, he acknowledged it politely. Saying, "I'm terrible with names," makes the situation lighter, and it even invites the other person to respond positively. This is an important skill in English, not just memorizing words, but knowing how to manage social interactions naturally, even when things go a little wrong.
Another thing to notice is the tone of polite honesty. In real English conversations, people often combine phrases like "I'm in a bit of a hurry" or "it slipped my mind" with a friendly tone and body language. You don't just say the words, you show that you are considerate. For example, if you forget someone's name in a meeting, you might smile and say, "I'm sorry, your name slipped my mind. Can you remind me?" This not only communicates your point clearly but also maintains a positive atmosphere. It's also helpful to practice short dialogues with these phrases. You could imagine yourself in different situations, meeting someone new at a conference, running into a colleague at a cafe, or asking for directions. Practice saying things like, "I'm in a bit of a hurry, so I'll catch up later," or "Do you have my contact details?" Over time, these phrases will feel automatic, and you'll handle small social challenges with confidence. Finally, let's remember the importance of repetition and reinforcement. The more you use these phrases in context, the more natural they will become. Listening, repeating, and imagining situations in your daily life will help you remember not just the words, but also how to sound polite, confident, and fluent in English.
John, now let's take a closer look at how to respond in slightly embarrassing situations. In real life, forgetting someone's name or missing a detail happens to everyone. The key is to respond politely and naturally. For example, when Nick forgot Anna's name, he didn't just stay silent, he admitted it politely by saying, "Your name has slipped my mind. Can you remind me?" This shows honesty and makes the conversation comfortable, even if it's a little awkward. Learning how to react in these moments is an important part of becoming fluent in English, because real conversations are not always perfect. Another important aspect is combining expressions naturally. Nick used multiple phrases together. He said he was in a bit of a hurry and handed over his card. This shows how phrases can flow in real conversations. Instead of saying one sentence and stopping, native speakers combine expressions to keep communication smooth and efficient. For instance, you could say, "I'm in a bit of a hurry, but I'd love to continue this conversation. Can I give you my contact details?" Using multiple phrases together makes your English sound more fluent and natural. We can also learn from body language and context clues. In the dialogue, Nick gave Anna his card and smiled when he admitted forgetting her name. In real life, your tone, gestures, and expressions are just as important as the words. Even if you forget a name or detail, using friendly gestures and a calm, polite tone helps maintain a positive impression. This is something that textbooks often don't teach, but it's a critical skill for real-life English.
It's also helpful to practice short role plays. You can imagine yourself meeting someone new at work, at a cafe, or at a social event. Practice asking, "Do you still have my contact details?" or "I'm terrible with names, can you remind me?" Doing this repeatedly will make your responses automatic and natural. Over time, handling these small but common social situations will feel easy and confident. Finally, remember that everyone makes mistakes, and that's okay. Forgetting a name or being in a rush doesn't mean you're bad at English. The important thing is how you handle the situation politely, using natural phrases, tone, and gestures. Practicing these responses will help you feel confident, calm, and fluent in English conversations. Now that we've discussed phrases and handling awkward moments, let's focus on fluency and natural conversation flow. In English, it's not just the words you use, but how you connect them that makes you sound fluent. For example, Nick didn't just say, "I'm in a hurry," and stop, he added, "But here's my card. We should meet again." By linking phrases together, he made his speech smooth, natural, and easy to follow. Practicing this kind of connected speech is crucial if you want to sound like a native speaker.
Another important tip is using everyday English expressions naturally. We've already seen phrases like "around here," "around the corner," and "slipped my mind." These are simple, but they appear in almost every conversation. The more you use them, the more natural they will sound. For instance, you could say, "There's a cafe around the corner if you want to grab a coffee," or "I'm sorry, it completely slipped my mind to reply to your message." These small expressions make your English feel authentic, friendly, and casual. It's also worth noting how to stay polite under pressure. Nick was in a hurry but still made sure to maintain politeness by giving his card and expressing interest in meeting again. In real conversations, even if you're busy or distracted, it's important to combine efficiency with politeness. You might say, "I'm in a bit of a hurry, but I'd love to continue this discussion later," or "Can I give you my contact details so we can talk again?" Learning these small techniques will help you navigate real-life situations confidently. Another technique is self-awareness and honesty. When you forget a name or make a small mistake, being honest, like saying, "I'm terrible with names," is better than trying to guess or stay silent. This builds trust and keeps the conversation friendly. Practicing honesty in English conversation, paired with polite expressions, helps you handle awkward situations gracefully and naturally. Finally, repetition and mental rehearsal are key. Imagine yourself meeting someone new, forgetting a detail, and responding politely using the phrases we've discussed. Repeat these scenarios in your mind or with a language partner. Over time, this builds fluency, confidence, and the ability to speak naturally, even in slightly uncomfortable situations. By practicing these strategies regularly, you'll notice a big improvement in your spoken English.
Let's continue by looking at how to expand conversations naturally. In real life, conversations are rarely just one-line exchanges. Notice how Nick and Anna didn't just exchange names, they talked about the conference, their office locations, and the interesting topics they discussed. This is very typical in English conversations. To sound natural, you can follow a similar pattern, start with a greeting, add a comment about a shared experience or location, and then introduce a small question or suggestion. For example, you might say, "It was great seeing you at the meeting last week. Did you enjoy the presentation?" This keeps the conversation flowing and makes it feel engaging. Another useful skill is combining questions with small talk. Asking simple questions like, "Do you live around here?" or "Is there a cafe around here?" shows interest in the other person while giving them an opportunity to respond. Small talk is very common in English, and it often uses everyday expressions we've already discussed, like around here, around the corner, or in a bit of a hurry. By practicing these questions in different contexts, you'll get used to how native speakers move naturally from topic to topic. We can also focus on how to react politely when you forget something. In the dialogue, Nick forgot Anna's name but handled it gracefully by admitting it and asking her to remind him. You can use similar phrases in real life. "I'm terrible with names, could you remind me?" or "It completely slipped my mind, sorry about that." These responses are polite, casual, and make the conversation continue smoothly, even in potentially embarrassing situations.
Additionally, giving someone your contact details is a very simple but effective way to keep the conversation going. Nick didn't just say goodbye, he handed over his card. This shows professionalism and interest in continuing the conversation. You can use this technique in work, school, or social settings. Saying, "Here's my contact information. Let's catch up soon," is a small action that has a big impact on how your English interactions feel natural and polite. Finally, it's important to practice imagining these real-life scenarios. Think about meeting someone at a cafe, in a conference, or at a park. Imagine what you would say if you forgot a detail or were in a hurry. Rehearse using phrases like "I'm in a bit of a hurry, around here, contact details, and slipped my mind." By doing this, you train your brain to respond naturally and confidently when the situation actually happens. The more you practice, the more fluent and relaxed your English conversations will become. John, now let's focus on how to build confidence in conversations. Many learners feel nervous when speaking English, especially in slightly awkward situations, like forgetting a name or rushing somewhere. The key is to remember that everyone experiences these moments. By using polite and natural phrases like "I'm in a bit of a hurry, slipped my mind," or "I'm terrible with names," you can handle these situations smoothly. Practicing these phrases will make you feel more confident and prepared for real interactions.
We can also look at how to practice combining multiple phrases naturally. In the dialogue, Nick used several expressions in one short interaction. He mentioned being in a hurry, handed over his card, and admitted he forgot Anna's name. These actions flowed naturally because he combined phrases and gestures. You can practice combining phrases like this in your daily life. For instance, you might say, "I'm terrible with directions, but I'd be happy to guide you if you want. Here's my contact details so we can meet later." Combining expressions like this makes your English feel more realistic and fluent. Another very useful skill is learning from small social mistakes. Forgetting someone's name or being unsure of a detail is not a failure, it's a learning opportunity. Each time you respond politely and naturally, you are improving your ability to communicate effectively. Over time, these small situations become easy to handle, and your overall fluency increases. The goal is not perfection, it's being able to manage real-life conversations with confidence and politeness. Finally, it's important to rehearse scenarios aloud. You can practice alone or with a language partner. Imagine meeting someone at a conference, forgetting their name, or being in a rush. Speak out loud, use phrases like "around here," "slipped my mind," and "contact details," and pay attention to your tone. Repeating these situations builds muscle memory for your brain and your mouth, so that when it actually happens, you'll respond naturally, politely, and fluently.
John, now, let's bring everything together and focus on reviewing the key points we've learned. In the dialogue, we practiced several important phrases like "I'm in a bit of a hurry," "around here," "around the corner," "slipped my mind," and "I'm terrible with names." Each of these expressions is very common in everyday English, and using them correctly makes your speech sound natural and fluent. Remember, it's not just the words that matter, it's how you combine them, your tone, and how you react in real-life situations. We also learned how to handle slightly embarrassing situations politely. Forgetting a name or detail is something everyone experiences. The key is to respond calmly and honestly, like Nick did in the dialogue. By saying something like, "I'm terrible with names, can you remind me?" or "It slipped my mind, sorry," you keep the conversation friendly and professional. This approach not only helps you communicate effectively but also builds your confidence in real-life interactions. Another important lesson is practicing conversation flow and combining phrases naturally. Nick didn't just use one phrase at a time, he connected multiple phrases and actions, such as being in a hurry, handing over his card, and politely admitting he forgot a name. Practicing this in your own conversations will help you sound more fluent. Try to imagine real scenarios and rehearse combining expressions, questions, and gestures together. Over time, this will make your English more natural and smooth.
We also explored the importance of context, body language, and tone. Words alone are not enough. A polite tone, a smile, or handing over your card at the right moment can make a big difference in how your conversation feels. These small social cues make English interactions feel authentic and professional, whether in a casual or business setting. Finally, the most important thing is consistent practice and repetition. Imagine scenarios, repeat phrases aloud, and practice role-playing with a friend or alone. Focus on using the phrases in context, combining them naturally, and reacting politely when mistakes happen. The more you practice, the more confident, fluent, and relaxed you will become in real-life English conversations. Remember, making mistakes is normal, it's part of learning. What matters is that you respond naturally, politely, and confidently, and over time, your English will improve dramatically. And that's it for today's lesson. Remember, real-life English is all about being confident, polite, and natural, even when things get a little awkward. Keep practicing these phrases, try them in your own conversations, and soon you'll handle any situation with ease. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning with me. Before we go, I want to ask you, what topic should we cover next? Let me know in the comments so we can make the next lesson even more useful for you.